So cellular trail cameras have certainly been the craze over the last 18 to 24 months. They've taken the marketplace by storm with social mass acceptance, but with so many different options, different carriers, different manufacturers, there's a lot of things that go unanswered and can get really confusing for consumers. So in this video, we're gonna break down the ins and outs of cellular trail camera plans. So the very first thing we wanna talk about, and is really the driving factor behind this video, is a question that we get asked almost daily here at Exodus. And that is, if I have an AT&T phone, do I need an AT&T camera? If I have a Verizon phone, do I need a Verizon camera? And the simple answer is no. The cellular device that you purchase does not need to match your phone provider. And a simple example of that is if your buddy has an AT&T phone, you have a Verizon phone, you two can still communicate. And these cellular trail cameras work in the same manner. So the very first talking point is cellular cam data plans are going to be carrier driven. And what that means is you need to buy a cellular trail camera that has signal on your property. So the signal strength and network availability, where you want to physically put this camera, is going to decide what type of carrier that camera has. So if you have Verizon coverage on your property, you're going to want a Verizon camera. If you have AT&T coverage with nothing else available, you're going to want an AT&T camera. So the cellular data plans are going to be carrier driven based on the signal or network availability, where you want to put that specific camera. And when you start looking at cellular trail camera data plans, you're going to notice a cost difference between carriers. So when you're looking at an AT&T camera and comparing plans, if you're comparing two different manufacturers, you want to compare apples to apples. So you want to compare AT&T plans to AT&T plans, or Verizon plans to Verizon plans, because Verizon has a bigger infrastructure, a bigger network, and they charge more to go through the certification process, and they also charge more for their data. So in general, a Verizon plan is going to cost you more money than an AT&T plan. So the next thing we want to cover are different plan types. Depending on your camera, depending on the manufacturer, there are a lot of different options for plan types. Some plans call for standalone plans where each camera has a separate plan and you have to manage that accordingly. Some cameras or some manufacturers like Exodus and the Exodus Render offer shared plans where you can have multiple cameras on a single data plan and manage that from one point. So when you're looking at different plan types and comparing the cost of different plans, you want to make sure that you're looking, again, at apples to apples, whether those are shared plans or standalone plans. So to drive home the cost savings and the advantages of shared plans versus standalone plans, let's look at a cost analysis breakdown. Let's say we have 10 cameras on a specific piece of property, and those 10 cameras are on a shared plan through Exodus. So with 10 cameras, we're going to say we're going to run a gig of data, which is 20,000 photos between 10 cameras. It's roughly 2,000 photos per camera if you want to look at it on a per camera basis. But that data plan for 1 gig is going to cost you $30. And then for each 10 cameras per month, you're going to have a line charge of $7. So 10 times 7 is 70. $30 for your data plan, $70 for your activation or line fees per month. You're running 10 cameras for $100. So figure a $10 a month per camera basis. So when you take 10 cameras and look at a standalone plan, average standalone plan is $12. You times that by 10 cameras, and then you're at $120. So not only do shared plans often cost less, but it also gives you the ability to manage everything in one spot and not have to worry about different overages or underages when you have a fleet of cameras operating on a single property. So one important thing that probably a lot of people really don't fully grasp or understand are data costs. And there's a lot that goes in the data costs, and it can get really, really technical, especially for consumers when you're trying to decide which model camera that you want to buy or which specific manufacturer you want to purchase from. So with data costs, there are several things that are going to be factors. One is compression software. So with cellular trail cameras, nearly all the pictures that are being transmitted are compressed. And then there are several premium brands or premium options like Exodus, like Spartan, like Covert, Reconex, that have the ability to do OTA commands or HD downloads. So when you're looking at data and trying to figure out how many pictures are coming over in a specific data plan, you can actually look at that file size, the average file size, and the better the compression software inside the camera, the smaller those files are going to be, meaning you're able to get more pictures for your dollar. So the first thing with data costs are image size, and compression software. The next thing we want to talk about with data costs are OTA commands. And OTA commands is simply an acronym for over the air. A lot of cameras these days, whether it's a 4G, LTE, most new connected devices, you have the ability to manage that remotely from your smartphone or from a web portal on your PC. And giving that camera OTA commands allows you a lot of flexibility on how to manage that camera, how to change settings. It keeps you from visiting that camera, whether you're formatting SD cards or deleting pictures. But any data, whether it's a SMS text, whether it's a picture, whether it's an OTA command, any data that's going through this carrier's network, you're ultimately paying for it. They're charging us for it, we're charging you for it. So keep in mind data cost if you're using OTA commands or if you're transmitting HD downloads, those bigger file size pictures or maybe even videos, that's going to eat away at your data plan. So the last thing we want to touch on is billing management. So with billing, ultimately this is going to go back to whoever owns the activation process of that camera. So if you're activating that through Spartan or you're activating that through Exodus, through their app, the billing management is going to be done through that company. If you're activating it and adding it onto an existing plan through Verizon or AT&T, that billing management is going to happen through that company. So keep in mind when you're buying a cellular trail camera, if you don't like to deal with Verizon or don't like to deal with AT&T because maybe you had a bad experience, that you might want to be looking for an option where you have in-house billing management that's done through the camera company versus the carrier. And with billing management, when you're comparing these data plans, you're going to want to look at several things. You're going to want to look at whether or not you're locked in to a yearly plan, a month-to-month plan. You want the flexibility to turn these things on and off kind of as you see fit, because through the hunting season, you're going to want to keep these things active. And then as the hunting season comes to a close, maybe in March, maybe in April, maybe through May, where data is kind of less critical, you're going to want to be able to shut those things off and save yourself some money. So make sure when you're comparing all these different types of data plans through the different manufacturers and different carriers that you have the ability to turn these things off and on month to month. So with billing management, with the Exodus Render, we use the app called Scout Tech, where it gives you full access to not only billing management, but also full access to OTA functions. So again, one thing to keep in mind when you're shopping and comparing these data plans is a lot of other companies are going to charge you for add-on features. So for the ability to download HD photos, the ability to send the camera OTA commands, the ability to do kind of what the camera should do, a lot of people are charging you an extra service fee or an extra monthly fee. Maybe it's $2, maybe it's $3, maybe it's $5 to have access to that. So here at Exodus, coupled with Scout Tech, all that stuff's free. Everything's included in that $7 monthly line charge or your data plan where you can manage that on and off. So as you're kind of comparing these things and analyzing the cost of running different cameras from different manufacturers, these are 4 different points that you're going to want to make sure that you cover when you're comparing the costs. So in closing, we hope this video provided some value to you guys. We hope that you're a little more educated on cellular trail camera and data plans. If you guys want to see more information and get a little more educated on these talking points with some specific information, be sure to smash that subscribe button and hit the bell notification because we have additional videos dropping on these specific topics in the very near future.